Hi there YouTube, Sad Womble here. I've been thinking that feminists really need to be careful what they dream of and what they want. The reason for saying this is we all know that there's a hell of a lot wrong with our society. Basically, men have got it easy and women have really got it quite crap. At least that's how feminists would have you believe it. The truth of the matter is, of course, that society has grown up over many thousands of years just because it has. Stuff's happened because it has. Things have happened because it's the most expedient and sensible way to do things. Men are the natural risk takers, so they end up doing all the heavy work and all the risky work. And because they're wired to do that kind of thing, they're good at making business deals and things like that. Now the world's all getting a little bit easy and cushy. All the women want to have some of that excitement. Which, can be good, can be bad. Mainly bad, in my opinion. However, there's a lot of things that where sexism doesn't actually exist, that feminists are determined to find it. Now, as we know, women don't want men to have safe spaces or any kind of spaces at all that don't involve women. So that's an easy target. It's very easy to go, oh, I have to do it in a high voice because it's a woman, obviously. Oh, you've got a men-only club. You can't have that. You have to have women in your club at all. So men are forced to do that. If, of course, you reverse the situation and go, excuse me, women, we want to have men in your women's only club. It's, oh, no, you can't have that because we have to have female safe spaces. Yeah, thanks for that. So, for example, the scouting movement, which has its own girl equivalent called the Girl Guides, has to now have Girl Scouts in it. Now, I don't just mean Girl Scouts as in a girly version of it, which would be totally fine, but no, they have to be, mixed in. So you have to have boys and girls doing scouting together, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but, maybe boys will be boys in the same way as girls will be girls. And it tends to have, you have to then start to make all sorts of special allowances that you didn't have to before. If you've got a scout hut and it has a toilet, now you have to have two toilets for men and the girls. Oh, it's just ridiculous and a nightmare. And you can tell the frustration in my voice. But the reason for this video is the be careful what you wish for section of feminism. There's recently been a thing here in the UK for the BBC. They've finally noticed, or rather the feminists have finally noticed, that panel shows tend to have just men on them. Wow, sexism alert, just men on a panel show. Oh no, the patriarchy is going to destroy society, no question. So there's now been a diktat because the BBC's folded immediately. There's been a diktat now that says no more panel shows that are, from now on, any panel show that's produced will have women in it. Now, of course, this has now also set the women's sphere aflutter, the femnosphere, or whatever the proper term is. I don't know, just made that up. That, now it's only going to be tokenism. And you go, oh, just get a grip. What do you bloody want? You either want women on or you don't, and you can't expect it to go perfectly first time. So, just have some token women and then build them in. Personally, I think you should have the best people for the job, and if the best people for a job on a panel show are the men, then you know what, you should have just men. However, the reason for my recording is specifically about the panel shows thing. This is a problem that nobody ever had before. We've managed to get to 2014. We've managed the whole history of creation up until this point without having to worry about, men-only panel shows. Because let's face it, that's pretty high up the list of problems. We've got down at the bottom, we've got, death and famine and pestilence. Then moving up, we've got, wars and problems like that. And then we've got financial issues that, a little bit higher up. But at the top of the ladder, the absolute worst possible thing that could be happening at the moment with the patriarchy is men-only panel shows on the BBC. I mean, whoa! Talk about first world problems, girls. Just get a life. Anyway, the problem we have here is what you have to be careful of, dear feminists, condescending tone alert, active. What you have to understand and realise, you little fluffy lovelies, is if you point out a problem that wasn't a problem at all, people who are less clued up in the world of radical, stupid, psychopathic, nutty, pathetic feminism will do, is they'll actually think you're serious. And they will actually think what you're talking about is equality, which is how feminism has been sold to the masses. The masses don't realise it's a load of incredibly privileged white women with nothing to do spotting the fact that, if a man's shown holding some soap, it's because he's belittling the woman in the advert. So here we are, and they might actually take you seriously. So if they take you seriously and go, oh, yes, we've only got men on these panel shows, what do you think's going to happen with panel shows that only have women on board? Do you think someone's going to turn their beady eye and go, well, wasn't a problem before. We've managed the whole of recorded history up until this point. But here we are now, and you know what? Those women are right. It's really unequal to have, just men. Hang on a moment. We've got some just women panel shows as well. Wow, that's just not right, is it? And, for equality, we've got to get some men in there. We've just got to. And of course, at that point, all the women will just start to shriek that, you can't do that because these are the women-only spaces and these are the only chances they've ever got. And then all the people who haven't been told that radical feminism is just a bunch of nonsense are going to go, yeah, but it's equality and you're meant to like equality. And they're all going to have to basically stand there and defend their not wanting equality, which just makes me laugh. Because women are finally running out of sensible things. Well, in my opinion, they ran out of sensible things after the vote and the right to work. And they're starting to now find pointless things that nobody ever thought of before. But the moment you make people think about them, you set yourself up for the reverse to be done. So, do you need a mixture of men and women on panel shows? Well, if you do, then you need a mixture on the female panel shows. Maybe the female guides movement, I'm not quite sure why a boy would want to join the girl guides, but maybe he wants to learn to sew. Maybe you should allow men or boys into the girl guides movement. I personally would love that to happen. If not, it's almost worth having a child, because I'm childless and I'm quite happy about that personally. It's almost worth having a son just so I can enroll him in every single female-only club just to watch them bounce back so I can write about it or blog about it. It's almost worth it. Of course, that's not going to happen, but, give it time, because I think what's going to have to happen is these female-only organisations are going to start to find themselves under attack. It's going to take a while, but I think it is I genuinely think it is going to happen. The great thing about women bouncing up and down on things like panel shows is they're throwing the feminism into the main arena, into the mainstream. A lot of feminism happens in the background where nobody can really notice it, and it's sort of institutionalized sexism. But when you throw something onto the front pages and make everybody think about it, and then because all the women in the world have basically been told, but a little core of nutcases have been told that feminism is all about equality, you do start to make people think, and if they actually believe it is equality, then they start to think. And then us red pill people, men and women, can start to point out all the points where it's actually sexist the other way. And this is the great thing. Before, stuff was done because it was the right thing to do, or the sensible thing to do, or it had just evolved. There was no malice in it. It wasn't deliberate. It was just, group of blokes got together, thought, wouldn't it be really funky if we could all sit in a big room and drink wine and read newspapers on our own? And so they invented the men's club. There was no malice in it. It was just probably wanted to get away from all the moaning women, and who can blame them? Because, women have never had any power. I mean, I personally remember Queen Victoria. She was powerless, useless woman. She didn't do anything. She just sat on the throne and knitted all the time. Queen Elizabeth I, utterly useless woman. I'm amazed. She could even get up in the morning. She was so useless. And if anyone doesn't spot the irony in my voice, well, hey, because both of them were probably the two most powerful rulers this country's ever had, and both awesome though they were. And women they need to worry, and they need to concentrate on they need to worry about what they wish for, because if you poke enough male spaces and enough male things, people will eventually notice that what you're actually talking is a complete load of nonsense. And I actually approve, because the more things we get in the mainstream, the more it'll get exposed. And the more it gets exposed, the better, because it's going to take time. Oh my goodness, it's going to take time. And the feminists are going to be grabbed kicking and screaming But the point is, they have always hidden their agenda inside equality, which is a total lie. Every red pill person knows that feminism is nothing to do with equality. It's all about basically slapping men off their perch and going and sitting on it instead. Some would say men aren't on a perch because men have got this huge amount of responsibility heaped on their shoulders. Basically, men have to run the world. Men have got to keep the world going. We know that statistically. There's more men doing more jobs that keep the world running. If you took all the men of the world away, you're not telling me that all the women are going to go down the coal mines. They're not going to do the lobster fishing and all the they're going to do the sewers. It's not all about writing cookery blogs and fashion magazines and nail bars. There's a little more to the world than that. I think you'll find that on the whole, men are the people that do that. And people are going to start to notice. Now, unfortunately, most of the world, like the Matrix and the red pill, blue pill conversation, most people, are totally oblivious to this. They're not ready to be unplugged, to quote, I think Morpheus says that. And they're not ready to be unplugged. But as happens in the Matrix, they are getting conditioned. It is being pointed out to people, and at the right moment, it happens. And I think what's going to happen over time is more and more and more people are going to become unplugged, and we're going to eventually have a point where more people are red pill than blue pill. Is it going to take a long time? Yes. I think it's going to take possibly, I'm going to hope and say maybe the next 2 or 3 generations, because you're going to have certainly men and boys who have been taught that, equality is the way to go. And they are going to start to notice this stuff, dudes. They are going to start to notice that it's not equal. And the courts, these people are going to start growing up and they're going to start hitting the courts. And as we know, the world of the MGTOW, etc., we're doing what we can, which is the big difference, I think. There's always been these inequalities in society, but they've never been in legislation before. And I think it's the in legislation element that's the problem. I saw another article the other day, which is basically saying, is chivalry dead? And it's basically said, no, just men are terrified to do anything anymore. Because chivalry seems to be basically the act of a man being nice to a woman. That's chivalry, and it isn't chivalry. That's sexism. Anything you do that's nice for a woman, that's sexist. You hold a door open for a man, that's fine. You hold a door open for a woman, that's sexist. You give out you're a seat up for a man, that's fine. You give your seat up for a woman, that's sexist. You anything a man does for a woman these days is referred to as sexist. So do you know what? Men are just stepping away and going, well, you know what? I don't want to be accused of being a sexist every second. So I'm going to sit on my seat and just enjoy my seat. It's lovely. Yes, there are 15 women standing up, but you know what? If I offer my seat to someone, I'm going to be accused of being a sexist, and I can't face that at the moment. I've had a long day at work, or I'm off to a long day that I don't really want to do, and none of these women in this carriage need to do any work because they can all have children and get huge amounts of benefits and stuff. Me bitter? Not at all. And, so that's what's happening. Chivalry isn't dead. Well, chivalry is dead, but chivalry is dead because feminism have killed it off. They've turned chivalry, they've just crossed out the word chivalry and written sexist. So anytime a man, then they all still want men to do it. Oh, men don't hold doors open for me anymore. No, we don't, because if we do, you'll slap us and say we're being sexist pigs. You know what? You hold your own bloody door open. And so, women need to be careful what they wish for. It's happening slowly. You start off with a little core of feminists, and then it gets wider and wider and wider, and the bigger and bigger and bigger a population do it, until now it's starting to really permeate society. As in, there are more men that don't want to be thought of as sexist. It's fine when it's a small group. Anything is fine. Any society can cope with a small group of nutters wanting to do their own thing. Any society can handle that. Or a small group, not necessarily of nutters, but a small group of people who want to go and do their own thing. If they want to go off and do their own thing and be harmless, that's fine. The moment that small society grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and starts to actually filter in and become the same size or bigger than normal society, then normal society starts to get swallowed up, and suddenly the whole system collapses. If it became fashionable for everyone to walk on your hands, that's fine. As long as only 50% of a few people do it. As soon as 30%, 40%, 50%, sort of 90% of people walk on their hands, all sorts of things will start to go wrong. Shoe sales are going to have a problem for a start. But you get the idea, crazy though that solution may be, that people you just can't keep on letting women have what they want, because they are going to do it to themselves. They are going to destroy themselves. And you know what? I'm really looking forward to it. Sad Womble, out.